Okay.
So today our topic is the homework 2 and also the previous lecture. So we are going to learn some ways to solve matrix. So this is gonna be Gaussian elimination, and maybe we are going to know how to convert a matrix to Rref, like reduced row echelon form. So let's see the homework first because it is our gist point. So we have a matrix here that is going to be so firstly we take the row, okay? We have 1, 2, and 3. So it is a 3 by, we have a column 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a 3 by 4 matrix. And to solve this, we need to think the main diagonal, or we need to think of pivot, pivot point, okay? So what is the pivot point? I have written down here. So pivot point is the first non-zero entity in each row, okay? The first non-zero entity, non-zero entry in each row. So for example, in this example here, so you see this is our first row, and all the entries are not zero. So we can say that this one is our pivot, okay? So now we have to think our main diagonal. So the main diagonal will be this way, okay? This is our main diagonal. So now we need to make all the numbers below that main diagonal as 0. So we need to make 5 as 0, this 3 as 0, and we have a 0 here, so no problem. So we have to make all the numbers below this main diagonal as 0. So that means these numbers. So now let's think how can we do that. So the first one is here, right? We have okay. So RREF, or reduced to row echelon form. So let's see what is RREF. So RREF, to understand RREF, we need to understand REF, or reduced echelon forms. So reduced echelon forms have 3 conditions. Number 1, pivots go to top left to bottom right. That means our pivot point will go from top left, that means this point, to bottom right, this point. So for example here, this one is our pivot point, right? Our first pivot point. So our REF form, or reduced echelon form, our pivot point will be like this way, okay? From top left to bottom right, okay? The second condition is, so if we find some pivot point like this way, like I can say, okay, we will see it later, okay? The second condition is zeros below each point. So this is our pivot point 1 here. So before this pivot point, all the numbers below this pivot point will be 0. So for example, we have on here. So below on, we need to make all the numbers as 0. So we have a 0 here, so that's okay. And for the second column, here is 3. So below 3, we don't have any number, right? So if we don't have any number, so we can just let that is 0. So this is the second condition. And the third condition is any row of all zeros must be at bottom. That means if we have any row that contains all the number as 0, so it needs to be sit at the last, okay, at the bottom. So for example, if we had something like, if we had another line here, that is 2, 5, and 7. So we could take this 2, 5, 7 in the second row, okay? And then we would take this 0 at the bottom. Okay, Mitchell, do you understand? So this is the 3 condition for REF, or reduced echelon form matrix. Hello. So then we have to know what is RREF, or reduced row echelon form. So the first condition is it should meet all the condition of RRF, all the condition of REF. Here it will be E, okay? So it have to meet all the condition of REF, or all the condition of reduced echelon form. And number 2, second condition is it's all the pivots needs to be 1. All the pivots point needs to be 1, right? Like here we have on, right? Here we have on. So in the pivot point we all have 1 as the value 1. And the third condition is we need zeros above each point, or pivots are originally are only non-zero entry in each column. Okay. That means if you look here, previously on REF form, or reduced echelon form, above of this pivot point, that means above of 3, we have a 2. But in RREF form, we need this 2 as 0. Okay. That means all the entity. That means all the entity here is our pivot point. So all the entity down this pivot point and above this pivot point needs to become 0. For example, here this is another pivot point. So all the entry above this pivot point and below this pivot point is needs to become 0. So that is called RREF, or reduced row echelon form. So now let's have a look at our main matrix. So to make it as RREF, we need to find the first pivot point. That is here, 1. So now if you want to draw the diagonal line, so this way, so we need to make all this number as 0. So for this reason, I have to think how can I get, firstly, how can I get all the values below this pivot point as 0. So we have 5 here. So I can just multiply 5 with the first row. Okay, I can multiply 5 with the first row, and then I can just subtract the first row from the second row. Okay, I can subtract the first row from the second row, and then I can rewrite the second row. Okay, then I can rewrite the second row. For example, if I multiply 5 with the first row, so I can get like 5, and it will be 0, and it will be 10, and it will be -5, right? So now I am going to subtract the first row from the second row. Okay. So 4 minus 5. So 4 minus -5. So it will become +9, right? So that's why I write down here +9. So if you look at this sign, so I have written here, that is R2 minus 5 into R1. Then we assign that value to R2. Okay. That means I multiply 5 with the first row, and then I subtract this value from the second row, and then I assign the result in the second row. Okay, so I have written down here, multiply the first row by 5 and then subtract the first row from the second row and restore it. So if I get 9, that's why I write down 9 here. Now here, so 7 minus 10. 7 minus 10 is minus 3. So here is minus 3. And 0 minus 0, that is 0. And 5 minus 5, that is 0. So our main target was here. Our main target was here, okay? We wanted this number as 0 because our first pivot point was 1, right here. So we want all the value below this pivot point as 0. So we got our first 0. Fine. Now let's move down. So down here we have 3, right? So we also want here 0. So how can we do that? We can again we can multiply the first row with 3. We can multiply 3 with the first row, and then we can subtract the first row from the third row. Okay. So if I multiply 3 with the first row, I will get 3, 0, and 6, and minus 3. Okay. So I have multiplied 3 with the first row. Okay. So now I need to subtract the first row from the third row. Okay. So 3 minus 3, that is 0. And then 0 minus 0, that is 0. 4 minus 6, that is minus 2. And 3 minus 3, 3 minus 3, that is plus 6. So we got, again, we got all the entries below this pivot point as 0, okay? And that's what we wanted. So Hassan is also here.
Yeah, bro, I was quite busy today. That's why.
Yes, okay. So this way we get all the values before this first pivot point as 0. Now let's go to the second row, the second column. Maybe I can go to the second row. So second row, we have our first pivot point is here. Okay. So pivot point is, what is pivot point? Pivot point is first non-zero entity in each row. Okay. First non-zero entry is in each row. So for example, here on the second row, the first non-zero entity is minus 3. That's why minus 3 is our pivot point. So let me drink a glass of water. So we got our second pivot point. Now we want all the number before this pivot point as 0. So to do that, how can we do it? So you see here, also we need to make all the pivot point as 1, okay? Because we know that reduced Rref form or reduced row S-line form, our pivots needs to be 1. So to make this all the pivots as 1, we can just divide our this pivot point, that is minus 3, divide this as with minus 3, okay? So we can divide here minus 3. So we cannot only divide with only this pivot point. So we need to divide all this row, okay? All the numbers in this row with minus 3. So that's why I divide row 2 with minus 3, okay? So 0 by minus 3. That is going to be 0. And minus 3 by minus 3, that is going to be 1. And 9 by minus 3, that is going to be minus 3. Okay. So we don't make any change on any other entries. Okay, just this second row. Now let's see what happens next. So the next line, we want all the value before below this pivot point as 0, right? That's why I multiply 2. Okay, if I multiply 2 with the second row, then we will get 2 here, right? And then okay, I will multiply minus 2. Okay, but okay, I will multiply 2, so that means 2 minus 2. Okay, we have another chance here. You see, reduced row echelon form or Rref form tells us we need all the, this is our pivot point, so we need all the entry above this pivot point and all the entry below this pivot point as 0. So that's why we have 2 on the upside, right? We have a 2 here. So if I multiply 2 with the second row, then it will become 2. And then if I subtract the second row from the first row, then I will get a 0, right? So then I will input that 0 to the first row, because then we will get a 0 here. Okay. So that's why I write down this this formula. So R1 minus 2 into R2, that means 2 minus 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. And we are going to assign that number to row 1. So that's why I have written here 0. Okay. Again here. So I multiply 2 here. So 2 into 0, that means 0. So 1 minus 0, that is 1. And then here 2 multiply 0, that is 0. And 0 minus 0, that is 0. And here 2 multiplies 0, 2 multiplies minus 3, that is minus 6. So on minus 6, that is going to be on minus 6. Sorry, minus 1. We had minus 1 minus 6. That is going to be minus 1 plus 6. Or we can write 5. So that's why I have written here 5. Okay. So guys, can you do you understand? Can you? Okay, Hassan. Can you?
I just, bro, I have to solve this first.
Okay.
Then I'll understand naturally.
Okay. So this is
You know,
your first time. I will make this much more easier maybe than the next time when I try to arrange another group study. Okay.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Now the last line. So we have by far now we have got our first pivot point here, our second pivot point here, and all the entries below this first pivot point and this below and above this first and second pivot point, they are now 0, right? Okay, so I skipped another line here. So you see this line. By far now we have solved up to this line. Okay. So now we need to make this value as also 0. So I could skip this. Okay. Now R3 in minus. Okay. So let's do another thing. We have 2 here and we have minus 2 here, right? So if we somehow multiply a minus 1 with the second row, then we can get also minus 2 here, right? That means this this entity and this entry and this entry, they two become same, right? It will be entry try. So this entry and this entry, they will become same, right? So that's why I multiply -1 with row 2, and then I subtract second row from the third row, okay? And I assign that value to third row because we want a 0 here, okay? We want a 0 here on in the third row. So that's why I did this, and -1, so it will be -2, and minus, if I multiply -1 with the second row, it will be +6. So now let's subtract the second row from the third row. So -2 -2 minus -2, that will become -2 minus -2. It will become -2 plus 2, or ultimately 0, right? So that's why I have written here 0. And after we have here we have 6 minus 6. So 6 minus 6, that is also 0. So see, we now we have got all the value before and above our main our pivot point as 0. So this is our reduced row Echelon form, okay? So this way we convert a full matrix to a Rref form. And to ensure this, we have to think this six condition, okay? Firstly, pivot go from top to bottom right. So let's see where is our pivot point. Here is our first pivot point, and here is our second pivot point. So we can see that it is going from top left to bottom right, right? So it satisfies our first condition. And then zeros below each point. So let's see if we have all the value 0 or not. So this is our first pivot point and second pivot point, and all the value below this pivot points are 0, right? Okay, so it satisfies the second condition. Third condition, any row of all zeros must be at the bottom. So we have a row, right? At the last line, at the very last line, here at the very last row, we have a row where all the values are 0. So it will sit at the last row, okay? So that condition also fulfills. Any row of all zeros must be at the bottom, okay? So we see that all the three condition of Rref it satisfies, okay? And now let's see all the conditions of Rref. So the first condition is it must be a Rref, or reduced Echelon form. So yeah, it is a Rref, and all the pivots needs to be 1. So we can see all the first non-zero entity in each column. So the first row in each row, okay? So the first row, the first non-zero entity is 1, okay? The second row, the first non-zero entity is 1, okay? And the third row, we don't have any number, right? So we don't need to think of the third row. So we match the second row, yeah. So all the pivots, they are 1, okay? And the third condition, need zeros above is point is pivot point. So we need 0 above each pivot point. So the first pivot point 1. So above 1 there is nothing. That means there is 0. Above this 1 there is also 0. So it satisfies all the condition. Okay, that means it is a reduced row. This is a reduced row echelon form. Okay, Hassan.
Yeah, bro. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's continue to the next question. The second one, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a 4 by 4 matrix. Okay. Firstly,
Hey,
we think,
Mitchell, কিছু more?
yeah, she's having some network issue.
আচ্ছা,
So firstly, we count down the row. Okay. First row, second row, third row, fourth row. So this is 4. Then we count down the column. So first column, second column, third column, fourth column. So this is a 4 by 4 matrix. Okay. Now let's see how can we make it to Rref form. So I hope you already remember the conditions. Okay. Now this is our
Yep.
first pivot point, because pivot points are the first non-zero entity of each row. So this 3 is our first pivot point. So we need to make all the entries before this pivot point as 0. Okay. So now what can we do? We can just okay, so there is one important thing. Okay, that is going to be, okay, so there is one important thing. We wanted that our first pivot point, it will be 1, right? Do you remember? We want all the pivot point as 1 from the
Yeah.
Rref condition. Yeah, all the pivots, there needs to become 1. So that's why I interchange. That's why I interchange the fourth row with the first row. Okay.
Yeah, you already noticed.
Yeah, row on interchange row 4. So the reason was our condition. Okay, our Rref condition. So now let's see the second line. So for example, I didn't write down it here. Okay, I just did it in my inside of my brain. So for instance, we have changed our row. Now we need to think of how can we get how can we get this number. Okay, or so this is a for example, here will be our first pivot point, right? So it is not 3, it is now becoming 1. Okay, because we already interchanged the row. So we want all the number before 1 as 0. So firstly, let's think about this 2. So we want this 2 as 0. For this reason, we can multiply 2 with the first row. Okay, we can multiply 2 with the first row. So then we get 2 here. Then minus 2 multiplies 2, that means minus 4. Then 2 multiplies 2, that means 4. And minus 1 multiplies 2, that means plus 2, minus 1 multiplies 2, that is plus 2. Sorry, minus 2. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to subtract the first row from the second row. Okay. And then we are going to assign the result to second row. So 2 minus 2, that means 0. Okay. 4 minus 4 minus 4 4 minus 4. Sorry, minus 4 minus 4. Okay. Hassan, see here we have minus 4. So minus 4 minus 4. That is going to be
4.
minus 4 plus 4. or 0, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's why we get another 0 here.
Yeah.
Now here is 4 minus 8. Sorry, 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2, okay? So 4 minus 2 is
2.
Hey, wait. I did some mistake. No, I didn't. 4
Struck from
minus.
should have struck from second row to the first row, maybe.
Oh, okay,
Am I right,
second. Okay,
Kumar?
nice. Okay, yes, yes. Wait. So second row is okay. I was thinking odd. Okay. Okay, so here 4 minus 8. Okay, 4 minus 8. 4 minus 8. That is oh yeah. We are going to subtract the second row, the first row from the second row. So 4 minus 8. No, not 4 minus 8. 8 minus 4. 8 minus 4. Okay, 8 minus 4.
You subtract from the second row to the first row.
Yeah. I was subtracting the second, the first row. No, the first row from the second row. So 8 minus 4. Okay, this way. 8 minus 4. So the previous problem the same. Minus 4 minus minus 4. You see the same thing. Minus 4 minus minus 4. And this one. 2 minus 2. Okay.
2.
2 minus 2. So this way. 2
Okay,
minus
just
2.
wait.
Yeah. So 2 minus 2. That is going to be 0. So this way we do like 8 minus 4, that is 4, and 0 minus minus 2, that is plus 2. Okay,
Mhm.
this is our second line. So you see we have got 2 0, right? 1 0 and 2 0. So we only expected on 0 here. Okay, but for bonus we have got another 0, no problem. Okay, so now let's see how can we make this minus 2 as 0. So for this reason, we need to make this 2 and this minus 2 as same. Okay, so to make them same, we need to multiply minus 1. We need to multiply minus 1 with the first row. So we get minus 2, we get plus 4, right? Minus and minus, that means they makes plus. So we get 4, and it is minus 4. It is plus 2. Okay. So now we have to subtract the first row from the third row. Okay. That means this way. Minus 2 minus minus 2. And we have to assign that number to the third row. Okay. So like this way. Minus 2 minus minus 2. So it will become 0. So that's why I write down here 0. Okay. Then 4 minus 4. That is going to be also 0. And minus 2 minus minus 4, that is going to be plus 2. And 3 minus 2, that is going to be 1. Okay, Hasan? So we got another bonus.
Minus 2.
Yeah, we
Minus
got
2 subtract should be minus 6.
so we got another 0 bonus. Okay, so sometimes it happens because it is like bonus after bonus. Okay, lab. Okay, let's continue. Because if you look at the pivot point here, the second pivot point will be here, right? So
Yeah.
the third pivot point will be here, and the fourth pivot point will be here. Okay. So, but for now we need all the numbers below the first pivot point as 0, but we only get 2 0. So we have to convert these 3 as 0 also. Okay. So let's see how can we
Yeah,
convert them. So we have on here, right? So if I
make the
multiply,
fourth row.
yeah, if I multiply 3 with the first row, so I will get 3 minus 6 6,
minus 6.
and minus
Yeah.
3. Okay. So now I have to subtract the first row from the fourth row. Okay. That means R4 minus 3 into R1, and then we assign that result to row 4. So let's subtract them. Okay. 3 minus 3, that is going to be 0. Minus 6 minus
0.
minus 6, that is going to be also 0. 0 minus 6, that is going to be minus 6. And minus 6 minus minus 3, that is going to be
3.
minus 3. Okay.
Mm.
So see here, we got all the entries below our first pivot point as 0. Okay. And the second pivot point is here, right? Okay. So now let's work on that. So we also want all the number before and above this pivot point as 0. So for this reason, we can do another. Oh, also RREF form, we need this pivot point as 1, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why,
that's our
yeah, that's why I have divided the second row with 4. Okay. I
to
have
make it 1.
Yeah, to make it 1. So if I divide by 4,
Mm.
I get 1 here. Okay. So
Mm.
2 by 4, that is 1 by 2. Okay.
Mm.
So I could okay, so the next line. Okay, the next line. So now I need all the entries below and above this pivot point at 0. So that's why I can just multiply the second row with 2. Okay. So then I will get here as 2, right?
Mm.
Okay. I will get here 2. And then I will get here like 2 by 2. That is, if we cancel them, I get 1, right? I get here 1.
1.
So 2, 1. And then I subtract the first row from the second row. Okay. So 2 minus 2, 2 minus 2. And we have to assign this value where you see above this pivot point. That means our pivot point is now this one, right? So we want to make this 2 as 0. That's why we are assigning this result to row 1. Okay, Hassan. And we can do
So
another. We can do the things reversely. Okay, like we can just
would you?
we can minimize. We can subtract the second row from the first row. Okay, by this time we can subtract the second row from the first row. That means 2 minus 2. 2 minus 2. Okay, that means 0. Then here 1 minus 0. That is 1. Minus 2 minus 0. That is minus 2. And minus 1 minus 1. That means minus 2. Okay. So Hassan, do you understand why I did this way? Why I did
To
R1?
make.
Yeah, to make all the entries above our pivot point and below our pivot point as 0.
Yeah, yeah.
We did this operation. Okay. R1 minus 2 R2 assigned to R1. I hope this line is clear.
Yeah, yeah, bro.
The next line. So now we have to make all the entries below this pivot point at 0. So what can we do? R3 minus R2. Oh, maybe I skipped Okay, Hassan, it was 2, right? It was here 2. It is not 1, okay? Oh, sorry, it was 1, right? It was 1. It was 1, sorry, it was 1. So
One,
maybe
two.
I have to write down 2 here, maybe. I need to write down 2 here, maybe, because otherwise I cannot say that this is correct, okay? So if I multiply 2 with the second row, it will become the same thing, okay? 2, and then it will become 1, right? I'm doing the same thing before, okay? I'm multiplying the second row with 2, and then I'm subtracting the second row from the third row. So, and we are assigning the number to the third row, okay? So 2 minus 2, that is going to be 0. So here is 0. And 1 minus 1, that is going to be also 0. So here is 0, okay? So I have made a little mistake here, okay, Hassan? I have to write down 2 here.
Yeah, you multiply R2.
Yes, right. You know, I was doing multiple homework by that time, so I was too busy doing the calculation and understand. So
That kind of
anyways,
spelling mistake for me. I'm
huh?
not a teacher.
No, it's okay. So on the last
I'm
line,
your,
okay, so this is our pivot point, but still we have minus 6 here, right? So we need to make this minus 6 as 0. So to make this, we can multiply minus 6 with the first row, okay? So then we get here minus 6. So now if I subtract the second row from the fourth row, so minus 6
it will
minus
be
minus 6, so we will get 0 here, and minus 3. So if I multiply minus 6 here, so minus 6 by 2, that is going to be, if I cancel 6 and
minus
2, it minus 3, okay? It is going to
ultimately it will
yeah.
be 0.
So minus 3 minus 3, that will be 0, okay? So you see, we get our first pivot point here, our second pivot point here, and all the entries below this pivot point and above this pivot point, below this pivot point and above this pivot point is 0. So this is our reduced row echelon form. Echelon form, okay?
Mm.
So I hope it is a little clear, but we have some challenge problem here, okay? Like this one.
Neither REF nor RRE.
Yeah. So this is neither REF or nor RREF. Why? Because you see here is 1. So below this pivot point is 0. So fine. So this is our second pivot point,
It's
1.
okay, but
Yeah, this is our second pivot point, 1. But below this second pivot point, there is not 0, right? So this is not
yeah.
REF, okay? So if it is not REF, so we can say that it is not also a RREF, okay? Because to
Yeah,
become RREF,
because they're in.
yeah, okay. Because to become
Right.
RREF, this needs to be REF first. So there is another challenge problem. So we have 0, 0, 0, 0. That means 0 matrix. So we don't have any pivot point here, right? So if we don't have any pivot point, then this is okay. This is a RREF. So you remember, 0 matrix is always RREF, or reduced row echelon form, okay? And this matrix, this is a row matrix. So our first pivot point is here 3. So below 3 and above 3 we have nothing. That means we have nothing means we have 0. So this is a REF form, okay? This is not a RREF form, but this is a REF form. Because RREF form, in RREF form, our pivot point is, the value of pivot point is 1, right?
Or
Yeah, Hassan.
we always, imagine if there is any number, it should be one. So why it is zero in
Okay,
here?
okay. Let me write down the corresponding equation for this matrix. Okay.
Usually we take imaginary number as one, but where it is zero now?
Okay. So this is like a if we want to convert this matrix to a equation, it will look like
Hmm.
this. So 3x plus 2y
Why?
is equal to 1. So we have only one equation. Okay. Before and before, above and below, we don't have any other equation. That means we have only 0. Okay, or we have only a space, we have only a hole. Okay, or just a space. That's why we let all the entries above and below this pivot point is 0. Okay.
Okay. For the sake of solving it, we need to
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
it's zero.
Yeah, right. Because we don't have any other equation for this matrix, so we have
We
nothing.
all environment, bro, but I already forget it all because of
Yes.
lack of practice.
And this minus 1, what is this? This minus 1. So we wanted to become RREF, we must need 1 as a PDF, as a pivot point. Okay, not minus 1. We always need 1.
But
So before this 1, sorry, above this 1 and below this 1, we have nothing, right? That's why this is also a REF, or reduced echelon form matrix. And the last example here, this is 1, right? So we know that our pivot point is 1. So above the pivot point and below the pivot point, all the entries are 0. That means it is RREF form. Okay, Hassan? But this matrix here, we know that
bro.
the row that contains all the value 0 needs to sit at the last, at the bottom, right? But this 0 is on the upside. That's why
Yep.
this is neither REF
Yeah,
or nor RREF form. And this one, we have our first pivot point here, and
yes,
all the entries below and above is also 0, and the pivot point, the
zero.
value
That's
of
why it
pivot
is.
point is 1. So that's why this is REF and also RREF. Am I clear, Hassan?
Yeah, bro.
Okay,
It was
so
quite easy.
yeah, so if you understand them, now we can solve our exercise on point 2. So our first pivot point is here, so all the number below is 0. Second pivot
Yeah.
point here, all the number
Also
below is
one.
0 also, and
Yeah.
the row that is containing all the value as 0, it is also at the bottom. So then we can say it is a REF form. But why not RREF? Because for RREF form, all the entries above the pivot point also needs to become 0. But we
Yep.
have 2 here. So that's why this is not RREF, but
Uh,
REF. Okay. The second example here, we have on as a first pivot point, and the second pivot point is
but
also 1.
wow.
The same thing, down here also 0, down here also 0, but above is not 0. That means REF form. Okay.
Okay, but not RREF.
Yeah, right. Number E, we have first pivot point here, but you see all the entries that are 0, it is in the second row, but we expected this at the bottom, right? So that's why this is neither REF nor RREF. So we need to send the second row to the bottom. Okay, then we can say this is REF form. Okay, but for now this is neither REF nor RREF.
Okay.
Number G, first pivot point here, second pivot point here. So all the entries below this pivot point 0, above this 0, all the entries below this pivot point and above this pivot point
0.
is also 0, and the value of the pivot point is also 1. So that's why this is Rref and also Rref both. Okay. So we have only 1 minute left for our meeting. So I think I covered most of the part. Okay. So
Yeah, bro.
I can do another meeting because I have also this number 4 and number 5. So see here, number 4. We have a matrix on 0 0 minus 7 8 or 0 1 0 3 2 and 0 0 1 1 minus 5. So we can write down the corresponding linear system here. Okay. So this is x1, x2, x3, x4, and this is our constant. Okay, or this is the number